I can hear you. I need to just turn up my dials here a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, how's that? How am I coming in for you?
You're sounding very tinny.
You what?
I don't think you're on your video.
Oh, sorry, I'm not. My bad.
Maybe the green screen's not going to work.
Is there any way you can turn up your output? I can hear you, but it's is your
I'm going to
speaker through your laptop?
my speaker is through my headphones.
Or your headset? Oh, hello. You mean Liz? I like it. Okay, here we are.
Trail mix and no slips.
Ooh, Pato,
Yay! Oh my
Pato and
God.
Rico.
Yay! Oh my God, I can hear the audience. Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds
yes.
nice.
Uh,
Okay, stop.
yes.
We've got a show to do. Okay. Um, uh, so we have a rough outline of four segments. The first segment
Yep.
would be just introducing ourselves and why we're
Yep.
doing this crazy thing. Um, and and then uh, and then you get to talk about whatever you want. So, um, do you want to go first? Like, why are you doing this?
I'm doing this because, I'm at a point in my life where I want to try new things. Um, and something that has really inspired me and tied kind of a transitional, portion of my life together has been the Camino. And you and I obviously met on the Camino, and it's been a wonderful experience. And you and I are I think I've kept in touch with you most closely than anyone from the flock that we gathered, if you will, when we started walking in 2015. Um, and so I'm just excited to share stories, to tell stories, and show how important journeys and adventures can be to people. And I've traveled the world not as extensively as you. Mostly for me, it's been South America and Europe. But I've traveled a lot, and I just love to learn. I love to learn new cultures. I love to learn new people. I like to meet people. Um, Almost like a JD Salinger kind of person, and I think you and I have clicked on that level. And I've admired your adventures, which are far more extensive than mine. But yeah, what I enjoy and what I'm excited for about this is to tell stories and to show folks that there's a lot out there to learn and to know and to tolerate and to experience and to love, because we are one global society that really deserves to be acknowledged.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, absolutely. And we'll obviously be talking a lot about the Camino because it's something that we have shared, but there's also so many individual stories from the Camino of a month walking. You've got your individual stories, I've got my individual stories, and then we have the stories that we share together with our Camino family. Uh, and hope
100%.
and hopefully we'll have some of them on here as guests at some point. That would be very nice. I know that
Yes.
some of them are already anticipating an invitation. Um,
That's
so
good.
my journey here, I actually, I've got all kinds of crazy ideas of things I might want to do. A podcast would have possibly been something I might have been interested in, but the fact that you said, "Hey, why don't we do a podcast?" I was like, absolutely, because normally it's my job to rope my friends into something crazy. And the fact that you invited me to go on this journey and just now I have like, someone that's inviting me to do something that's, time consuming and will just probably take up a good portion of my life because I've got to, do the editing and then market it and all that kind of stuff. But it's something that I'm gonna get very passionate about, because it's another way to tell stories. I've been very active in trying to create my own blog with Tramposaurus, which is like a hiking blog where I tell stories, not only experiences that I've had around the world, but um, I do research and I create little documentaries. And I also have been cataloging different uh, treks you can do around the world, trying to create some kind of database that people that might want to go for a walk, they can go onto my blog and say, "Oh, I'm in Azerbaijan. What can I do?" And there'll be a hike there that they can do for like over a week or a month. Um, and so, in the process of doing the documentaries, doing the blog, and just writing my own Facebook posts, which are kind of, mini novellas in a way already.
They
Uh,
are very much, and I
a-
enjoy them.
and I like doing the long form writing, and I've just recently discovered Substack, which is going to be another time consuming aspect of my life. But I this is another way to get these stories across. It's and I have someone to tell stories with. Normally, it's just me trying to format stories, and I get very self-conscious about me trying to talk to people and trying to tell stories because I feel like I lose them too easily, and I get very self-conscious, and then I skip a whole bunch of crap, and I I just go directly to the end because again, I get self-conscious that they're not that I'm boring and whatnot. And the fact that I have someone to bounce off ideas with or someone to carry the conversation when I feel like I'm running out of steam. Um, when I'm writing, I don't have that problem because I can
Right.
rewrite. I can cut out
Yeah.
the things that might be a little boring. But here I am talking, and I'm not a Toastmaster. I've always felt like talking was one of the things I needed to work on. Um, again, because I don't have confidence in this. So it's great that you invited me to go on this journey with you. And obviously, I was in 100% right from the beginning because within 5 minutes, I had a logo and and the mission
Exactly. But I do remember the first time that I kind of noticed that you were reticent to talk was I forget what village it was in on our Camino. But it was the one where the Irishman got really drunk, and he wasn't really drunk yet. I forget what village it is. I don't know if you can
Oh, yeah. Oh,
remember.
that guy.
And
Yeah.
yep, yep. I just call him Patty because why wouldn't you call an Irishman Patty,
Oh
right?
my God.
So, and but I remember it wasn't a long day for us that day for us, not Forrest. And and you had set up shop in the bar where we were all drinking and eating that
It was
night,
on
and
the
you were allowed.
patio, I think. It was on a patio. You were outside at a table, I think.
Yep.
Uh,
Yes, correct.
I was in the corner, um,
Yeah.
just sewing my pants back together because I do that occasionally.
Yes.
And I was just sitting there minding my
It
own
happens.
business. I was minding my own business, and you guys were over there talking. And I'm like this, and you guys
Yep.
said something, and I was like, like,
And thus was born La Abuelita.
yes. And I was like, and it's a name I gave myself because I picture myself sewing in a rocking chair and just saying, "Get off my lawn," kind of thing.
You were we were a few cups ahead of you, so yeah,
Oh,
you were a little done with us at that point.
no, I wasn't done. I was just, I like being around people, but I also don't necessarily be in the middle of everybody. But when I saw
Yes.
an opening of something that I may or may not have agreed with, I let everyone know, kind of thing. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, but you were over there kind of just doing your thing, doing your thing,
Yeah,
and all of us were just gabbing, 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 gabbing,
yeah,
gabbing, and then you did insert yourself right into the situation, and it
yes.
was awesome. It was like, okay, all
I was
right.
sewing, and my one of my big um, travel hacks is tooth floss. Like, I guess teeth are a big thing for me. But I don't use tooth floss too much, but I sew with it, and I use it for clotheslines, and it's like this all around super
It's
strong
it's very versatile.
thing.
It's so versatile.
So I carry
I mean,
tooth floss with me solely for sewing, and it keeps my clothes smelling minty fresh as soon as I'm done sewing. uh,
this is
but
the
that's
Minty Fresh segment.
that's one of my travel hacks is tooth floss.
We should get sponsored by somebody that's Minty Fresh.
Right, not with this set of teeth. Hi, I would like to advertise your tooth floss. Um, anyway, so I also remember this Irishman because he hiked in flip-flops.
Yep.
He had a bag
Yep.
that he
That was the
lost,
same night. That's the same night. Yes. Yep.
and 2 days later we told him that we found his bag. This is like, probably 40 miles away. He hiked back to get his bag, and then hiked back again because he had
And
lost his bag. Yeah,
passed us.
yeah. Oh my God. Not you, because you're hiked way too fast for me. He's such a character, and I forgot all about him. Um he was such a mess, and he came into the hostel, the albergue one night, and he was just so loud. And I guess he was dating May at that time, and I literally threw him out of the albergue. He had already paid, but he was so loud and screaming that I had to throw him out. And May's standing next to me crying, and I'm like, no, sorry. There's
He's
not just
out.
us. It's not just us. We were in a room of like 40 sleeping people. If it had been just us, it would have
Then it would
been
have been fine. Yeah.
it
It'd
wouldn't have
been
been
different. We
fine,
would
but
have handled it differently. We would have
yeah,
handled it differently.
just
Yeah.
shut up and pass out eventually. But the
Yeah.
fact that it was our group, and like, we had all these people we didn't know, and literally everyone was awake by this point. I was like, you got to go. Oh
You
man,
gotta go, man.
got to
You
go.
gotta go.
Oh my
And he would do
gosh.
that double time. He would do that double time shuffle,
Yeah,
like
with flip flops.
yeah, and just go
Ah,
forever.
anyway, so there we are. We're both here. We both have stories. I'm here to kind of round out my online EGOT. I mean, I'm making films, I'm doing audio now, I'm writing stories. What else is the EGOT? Doing plays. So there's an EGOT is someone that wins the Tony, the Academy Award, the Grammy,
Grammy and the Emmy.
Emmy. So TV. I'll have to do TV. So yeah, I'm doing YouTube. So I'm doing the online. I'm trying for the online EGOT. I'm writing.
Online
I'm
EGOT. Okay. Nice.
I'm hitting every medium. So this is to solidify my Grammy portion of my online EGOT.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Wouldn't this be more the Emmy style? The Grammy's a
Well,
song, isn't it?
yeah, but it's anything audio. So if we're doing a
Oh,
podcast,
okay.
like if we upload this and someone just listens to it, it would qualify, I guess, as
Oh,
uh, a
okay.
Grammy. Yeah,
Did not
Grammy.
know that.
A Grammy can be spoken word.
Oh,
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's
yeah,
awesome. Cool. All right. Well, let's go for your EGOT, man.
yeah. My online EGOT. So so next segment, if we're done with this segment, do we want to take a
Sure.
commercial break? Like, what can I sell?
What can you sell? Can
Anyway,
you?
So do you want to try and do your Rick's Choice segment, or do you want to try, or
You
do
know,
you,
I'll do one. I'll do one. I'll tell you, I'll do one on how I found the Camino and how this became a part of my life.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
um, it was 2013, and in the period prior to that, I was kind of moving my way through a divorce. It wasn't rapid, but it was tough. I cared a lot about my family, and I really didn't want to impact my wife and sons as little as I didn't want to impact them. But I needed some time to think and get away and understand what was going on. So, but I also had a passion for Spanish because I'd taken 6 years of Spanish and wanted to learn. And I was like, where could I go just to get away for a little while? And so I ended up in Barcelona, Spain, and I had an apartment there. And I booked an apartment and lived in Barceloneta, which is a little fishing village right on the coast there. And I set up shop for a few months. And I put the map up on the back of the bathroom door, and I was staring at it thinking, what are the places in Spain that I want to go visit? What am I going to do while I'm here? I'm not just going to sit in this apartment. And I saw this little purple line, which was a different color than any other line on the map. And I was like, what is that? And it said, no, Camino de Santiago. I was like, what the hell is that? I had no clue. I'd never heard of it. So with my very, very spotty 2013 Wi-Fi in Barcelona, I finally Googled it and figured out what it was. And I was like, wow, that looks amazing. And so didn't think too much of it, but it was always in the back of my mind. And so I ended up going back home. My time was up, visa reasons, and I had to actually go back to work and make money. And then when I got home, I told my mom about my thought, and she pointed me to the movie The Way. And so I watched The Way, and I was like, I need to do this. I need to go do this. And so in the subsequent months, I got divorced, finally things, and I was on my own, and I was like, you know what? I just have to go do this. And so I took a sabbatical from my work, and without knowing anything I was doing, I bought a backpack. I mean, I'm a hunter and a fisherman, in my private life. So it's not like I'm not an outdoorsman. So, but I grabbed the gear that I thought I would need, showed up in Saint Jean. I actually made a kind of a fun trip. I bounced from Seattle to Reykjavik, spent a couple of days in Reykjavik on May Day. That's a party story. And then from Reykjavik, I bounced to Copenhagen. I did a couple of nights in Copenhagen, which was an eye opener for me. And then Copenhagen to Berlin, and then Berlin over to Paris. And then I went and did a couple of days in Normandy. Then I went down to Biarritz. And then from Biarritz, I took the bus up to Saint Jean. And I remember lying sitting in the hostel in Saint Jean and being like, I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this one, but I'm going to swear this time. What the fuck am I doing? But then I also remember thinking to myself, who am I going to meet? And I think that was the thing I was most excited about, was who am I going to meet in this journey that I'm about to take? And I think I was really excited about it. And a little funny tangent off of that was, so I got there, got my hostel, I was all settled, and I went back out and I went down to the bar and got a beer, had a beer and chatted with a couple folks. And I come back up, and there's these three kids sitting on the sidewalk. And I was like, "What's up, guys?" And surprisingly to me, they responded in English, and they were like, "Ah, oh, man, we're just looking for a place to stay." I was like, "Where are you from?" "Well, we're from Mountain Home, Idaho." "Well, shit, that's like an hour away from where I grew up." And I was like, "You're kidding me? You guys are Idaho boys?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Hold on, I'll be right back." So I run into my hostel and I asked the hostess, I go, "Hey, can you put up three more?" She had said she was full. I go, "Can you please just put up three more?" And she looked and I was like, "Please." She said, "Yeah, I'll put up three more." And so we all kind of squished our way in. And I told the boys, I go, "Come on in." And that was kind of like that was my first Buen Camino moment.
Mm.
And I loved it. And then the next day I took off in the rain and headed up to Orison. I met Cam and White
Peter.
Peter. Yep. And that began my portion of the flock. And that, and from that point on, over the next month, what we experienced, which we'll talk a lot more about over the course of time, that was the beginning of a significant changing in my life.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it.
Yeah. It it changes people. I mean, people go on to the Camino and they come back married or
Yeah.
divorced. Like
This
you,
is true.
you will,
This is,
you
yeah.
will really, you will find out how
It
compatible you
does.
are.
Exactly. I showed up divorced.
Yeah, there you go. Um, but yeah, it's a really great place to strip away all of the superficial layers of a personality, and you really get to see who people are. Um, and that's why I think it's so easy to make friends on the Camino, is because people are so raw. They're stripped down to like who they really are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. One of the things I found, and I'm going to just kind of go ad hoc segue into your segment here, is
mhm.
I was fascinated at the fact that you're a lifetime expat,
Yeah.
effectively.
Well, starting 2005. So by the time I got to the Camino, I had already been out of the country for 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And you were doing productions in, I always forget, was it Dubai
That
or
was
Abu Dhabi?
at that point, it was Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I mean,
Dubai.
they're pretty close to each other. Um, but
So
yeah,
how did you find that? How did you find that? And how did that find you?
well, for one reason or another, in 2005, I got my passport. I had
Yeah.
been working on Broadway and in production, and I was,
You
uh,
worked on Broadway.
yes, I worked on Broadway and I worked in theater in New York, but my life had become toxic there. I was part of like the gay scene, and the gay scene in the late 90s, early 2000s was very much a club scene mixed with a lot of uh, chemicals.
A
So
lot of a lot
I'll, and anything you could imagine. So
of
I was like,
So it
you
was
know what?
literally toxic. It was literally
It was literally
toxic.
toxic. Yeah. And and I mean, I to some degree I was addicted to like the whole scene. Couldn't get out of it because every time I felt up, I needed to go party. Every time I was down, I needed to go party. And so like I just needed to get out. And the one thing, and I had worked on Broadway, it checked that bucket list off. An earlier bucket list item, my first bucket list item in my life was to travel. Um, and I had traveled a little bit in a lot in the military. I lived in Japan for 4 years, and then lived, and then after that, I moved to DC for 4 years, and then New York for 11 years. But I was done. I needed to spend the rest of my life traveling, and it was the best decision I ever made. There's a lot more to that story because I was working for the number one nightclub in the world, Crowbar, and they had just given me a raise um, and a promotion because I was producing events for them. And uh, like literally a few days after they gave me a raise and a promotion, I actually went up to the woman that was running the club, Sherry, and I was like, I'm going to leave the United States. Would you mind sponsoring me? And like, what was going on in my mind that I thought that that was a really appropriate thing to ask? But I mean, we're still friends, but it was just so uh, not you know those things that you do in your life that you cringe like they just gave me a promotion and I'm asking them to give me money so I can travel long term, not so I can keep working for you. Got my passport, moved to South America, Ecuador, 2 years. I was doing online marketing. Okay, so 1 year in Istanbul where I did one production. Istanbul, Bangkok for 6 years. I was doing production there at nightclubs. And then I got a job doing massive productions in South Africa for 9 months. And then I moved to uh, Dubai. And it took me a year uh, and some very, very bad bosses to get to a job at a place called Global Village where I was producing major, major events uh, at a massive theme park. So this leads into my segment coming up next. So I'm in Dubai. I'm working 6 months on, 6 months off. What am I going to do with my 6 months off?
So tell me about the West Highland Way.
Okay, so I'm back in Dubai, right? So I was doing production in Dubai. I had already spent one summer in Dubai, and it was absolutely ho horrifying. It was not only like 120 degrees Fahrenheit, but it was also humid as anything. You you would stay in an air-conditioned building and you would run to your car, and then the car would be boiling hot. So the people that had the money would have their helpers or their servants go and open the car and put the air conditioning on. Um, you know how if you're in Alaska or in maybe Norway, you would be taking vitamin D pills because you had no sun in those places because of the 6 months of darkness.
Yep.
People
Yep.
have to take vitamin D pills in Dubai during the summer because they do not go outside. All right.
Oh,
It's
no kidding.
it's it's
Wow.
it's that brutal. Anyway, um, so I'm thinking I'm not going to spend another summer here, and I have 6 months off. Where can I go, and what can I do where I'm not going to spend any money? Like I want to have a great time, not spend any money. Walking's free, so I'm going to walk. So I I did a little bit of research. I was going to go to the Philippines and visit some old friends that I had there in the military. But I decided the flights to the Philippines. I was flying on Space A because I still had a friend that worked at Etihad, and I couldn't get a Space A flight. I pay for my flights now. I don't go through that
Yeah. Yeah.
rigmarole. Um, but I couldn't get a Space A flight to save my life because it was the beginning of the holiday and all the Filipinos from all over the world were flying home. Uh, and so I was like, I'm going to just go directly to Scotland because Scotland was my first stop. And then I was going to do the Camino de Santiago immediately after that. So I got to Scotland several weeks early. Um, I flew into London. My first time actually going through a customs where they really scrutinized me. Like they were really wondering what I'm doing there. Like, I hadn't been, I'm an American. I don't get scrutinized like that. Anyway,
That's the
but
tip. Yeah, I get
yeah,
it. I
but
know. Yeah.
it wasn't that I denied them that because I mean they're doing their job, but I just had never had that happen to me before. So I'm like, I'm going hiking. I'm going to Scotland. And they're like, where are you staying tonight? I'm like, I'm going hiking. I'm going to Scotland. I'm going to be in my tent tonight. And they just would not let me pass. I actually had to get out of line, get an address for something in Glasgow, and just write down the address and then go back to immigration. And they let me through. Um, but I had just flown to London from Dubai, not a lot of sleep, got immediately on a bus to Glasgow, not a lot of sleep. I get to Glasgow. I'm like, I had never been to the UK before. I'm loving the architecture. I'm loving all this stuff. I'm walking around. I'm loving all of the friendly people. I mean, really the friendliest people, some of the friendliest people I've ever met in Glasgow. I went to get a sweater because I had gotten there several weeks early. I went to a thrift store to get the sweater. I didn't get out of this thrift store for like 20 minutes because the lady behind the counter, where are you from? What's going on? What are you doing? Uh, and literally
Yeah.
everybody, and then everybody behind me in line weren't impatient. They got into the conversation. Anyway, so I got my sweater and I'm kind of just so excited. I'm going on this epic adventure. I need to see where I was going to go get a hotel and then start walking the next day, nice and rested. So I take the train to where the stop is in a little town called Milgave, which is not spelled the way it's pronounced. So, so trying to tell people that I wanted to go to Milganavne or something like that, they literally will look at you crazy. It's literally like Milgave or something like that, but it does not look like that. But I got there. I wanted to see the archway. It says, "Welcome to the West Highland Way," and there's a big monolith of like a marker that shows the starting point. And I got so excited. I literally hadn't slept for like already like 18 hours. I got so excited. I'm like, I'm going to start right now, like walking. So I didn't have a sleeping bag or a tent. There's a little hut at that archway that sells you some kind of supplies. Now, the tent wasn't waterproof. The sleeping bag was like, you know how the cheaper the sleeping bag you get, the more it was like that big around. So I got all this supplies, not the and the tent you can see from some pictures that I'll be posting on here. It was a bright blue with like fluorescent pink ridges and stuff. Um, It was like something you'd put in your backyard for your kids to play in. But I was about to take it on a 9-day hike across Scotland. So this is also my first trip. So I didn't know how to pack. I always considered myself having like seriously strong legs. I can carry people. I can do fireman's carry, and I considered my legs to be thoroughbreds. Okay, but I didn't. I really hadn't ever walked with like a 40-pound bag on my back for 20 miles uh, over over hills. So uh, with this bottle of wine that I purchased, because I'm gonna
Of
be festive.
course.
I'm gonna be festive with this tent, with this thing, with okay, with this Europe on a Shoestring Lonely Planet book I had brought with me. It's literally like that thick. And it's like
And it's
th-
light. It's very light, I'm sure.
it's like 3 bricks
So,
glued
yeah.
together. All right. Because maybe after Scotland I'll go someplace else. I'm gonna need all of Europe. I'm gonna need a guide for all of Europe. So I've got that in my bag. Um, so I'm setting off. I'm just too excited. I can't stop it. I can't stop myself. So I'm walking. It's already like 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I've started walking on like 19 hours of no sleep. It's like 5 hours later, I get to a campground. By the time I get to that campground, I'm seriously looking for any place I can pitch a
Any
tent.
flat spot in the world.
Yes. So I remember pitching my tent, my brightly fuchsia rim tent. Uh, I've been traveling. I hadn't, and hiking now. I needed a shower. I went to take a shower, got back, and went to my tent. It was kind of cool. I draped the towel over my tent to dry overnight, and I got in the tent. Because of the weight that I had carried the day before, my body was shot. Because of the amount of exhaustion that I had the day before, my body was shot. I got up so insanely sore from walking with all of that weight and not training, by the way, before I got there. So I woke up and I get out of my tent, but I had a hard time getting because my towel was in the way. My towel had frozen into a solid sheet. So I had to break through my towel practically
Done
to
there,
get
done
up
that. Yeah.
and and then kind of fold my towel like a board to strap onto my back with all of this stuff. I start walking again, okay? Um, it's pretty flat at this point. I'm still haven't even gotten to Lac Lemont. I'm walking, walking, walking. I start losing things like on purpose. Like back is so heavy. Like I stop in this coffee shop. That coffee shop got a new book, Europe on a Shoestring. Like I literally was like, I need to lose everything I can out of my bag that I cannot carry. So I'm still walking and I'm walking, walking, walking. There's no hills yet. And then I see this one hill up in the a big hill up in the distance. And I'm like, oh, that's no problem. I'm sure we're gonna walk around it.
Of
Um,
course,
of
right?
course,
That
yeah.
wasn't that what a logical human would do is to walk around something.
No, no. This is Conic Hill. And I at the closer I get to it, the more I can see little ant-like figures going up the side of it uh towards the top. It's not a little hill, it's not a massive hill, it's not the Alps or anything, but to my legs at that point, it might as well have been Kilimanjaro because I was absolutely pathetic at that point. So I'm not giving up. I'm going up this hill and people are stopping. First of all, it, when I would see someone on the trail walking in my direction, because locals use the trail as well to get around, um, I would I would curse because like the nicest people in the world to get. They're so nice. And I could see them coming my way. I'm like, oh shit. Because they will stop you and talk to you for at least 15 minutes. Like they're not letting you go. I'm like, no. I'm like, I love every single one of them, but oh my God, I was in so much pain. So I'm walking up this conic hill and I'm slowly making my way up because I can't. My legs are just little noodles at this point. And people are stopping and talk to me at this point, not because they're really interested in talking to me, but because they're worried about me. That they they stop and talk to me, realize I'm not gonna immediately die. So then they walk ahead of me and they keep turning around to make sure I'm still like standing. I
Still
was
moving.
I
He's
was
still kicking.
I was that far gone. All right. So I'm get to the top. Oh my God, it's gorgeous. Great. Amazing. Now I got to go down. Completely different set of muscles. I get down off of this hill and but now I'm in this district where there's all of these hikers because it's got Conic Hill and it's got all these little uh special inns for all the little day hikers and you can go and you can go to
Oh,
the inn and the inns are they're like 75 to $150 a night. My budget didn't call for that because I'm doing a 1 week hike and then a month long hike. and I needed to make my money last. And plus, I bought this tent. I'm gonna stay in this tent, right? I'm camping. I was still determined to do this. So, but there's this restricted area. Scotland, by the way, has this law where you can wild camp. It can be on private property. It can be anywhere you
Yep.
want. You can literally put your tent up, and as long as you're gone the next day and you don't disturb the property or whatever, you can put your tent up anywhere and sleep for the night and just keep moving if you're hiking, except for this one area of Conic Hill. So it was another like 12 kilometers after Conic Hill that this restricted area of no wild camping was. And I needed
And
to get,
when you're tired, 12 kilometers is a long way.
I needed to get to this point. And I'm shuffling, 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 shuffling. All right. I get to the end of this restricted area. And now I can wild camp, except there's kind of like these construction barricades going along both sides of the path because the entire area is being reforested and rehabilitated. So I broke the law. I climbed over the fence. I I climbed over the fence. I'm like, I can't anymore. I can't. I climbed over the fence, walked away from the path as far as I could so I wouldn't get like arrested, and I put my tent up. And I was so proud of myself for making it that far. I took a picture of my tent. In the tent that night, I opened a bottle of wine. I had myself a little celebration. And then I went to sleep. Now, in the middle of the night, it started raining. And it wasn't just a little rain. Uh, it was
it was North Atlantic rain.
it was a Scottish typhoon is what was happening. My little tent was going like that, and it started just leaking, pouring inside. So all of my clothes that I was carrying, I was using to mop up the water, go outside and rinse. I took my poncho, my big poncho. I went outside and I draped it over my tent to try and make a waterproof barrier for this monsoon.
Yep.
It leaked through that all night long. I got like 5 minutes of sleep, wake up, 5 minutes of sleep, wake up. I, I got up in the morning. I took another picture of my tent and it was absolutely destroyed. My poncho wasn't even on the tent anymore. Um, Everything that was wet, I had to put back into my bag. So now my bag had wet clothes in it, not dry clothes. So it was even
Those are
heavy.
those are heavy.
It was even heavier. I was miserable, so miserable. And I'm start walking again. I was like, I got to get to the next place. But I decided that I'm gonna be staying inside that next night because I'm gonna spend the money to stay inside.
Yes, yes.
But I think I only had to go like 7 kilometers. It took me something like 10 hours because I was doing little baby steps because I was so weak and so
Yeah.
miserable. And that bag was so heavy. And I was hating every little decision I'd ever made up in my life to that point that got me on this path in Scotland. Oh, and so I'm walking towards the 7 kilometers and I'm walking along the side of this hill. And what was probably a little stream, cute little stream at some point was now like Niagara Falls. And and the path goes through it. Normally you probably have a couple stepping stones to get
Yep.
to the other side. You could not see anything like that. It was all underwater. And I stood there.
It's all over your ankles, so all the water's going down your boots.
I
So
stood
yeah.
I stood there looking at it probably for like several minutes. And I was looking at down the hill where I could just go into Loch Lomond with everything I had and swim around where the water entered the water and swim past that with everything I had. Because if I had tried to walk across this, my legs were so weak, I would have just been knocked down the hill and just
Yep.
been a I would have been a casualty at that point. And literally out of nowhere, these two elderly people came. I had been standing there. I didn't see them show up. And they were like, "Do you need some help?" And they linked arms with me and we sidestepped across this water. And I literally wanted to thank them, but then by the time I gathered my thoughts and looked for them, they were gone. So I don't know if that was an angel from heaven or not, but I got to this inn. It's called the Inverness Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an old church that had been made into a bunkhouse. The restaurant was upstairs in like the choir loft with these amazing stained glass windows.
Oh, wow.
I spent 2 nights there because the next day I put my clothes out on the lawn with the sun out and they dried. The next few days, it was not so bad. But I'm telling you, those first 3 days were enough to make me never, ever, ever hike again. If I had if I had not already booked my flight to Spain to go on the Camino de Santiago, I might
Yeah.
not have ever hiked again.
Oh, really? It was that
It
kind
was
of
that bad.
experience.
I mean, the rest
How did you like Scotland, and like did you have some haggis?
I did. At the Inverness Inn in that choir loft, I had it. But really quick, I want to close up Scotland real quick. I
Yeah.
got the next few days were just gorgeous and uneventful. My At the end, I also went through my bag and got through. I gave away everything I didn't absolutely need to survive, like even little keychains that I had bought, like in Glasgow. I gave everything away because any weight that I could take off of my legs was worth it. So I'm back on the road, and I'm just gonna skip till like the day before I'm done. And it was at Kinlochleven. It
Hmm.
was the Blackwater Lodge at Kinlochleven. I'm sitting at by my on my own, kind of like abuela, kind of.
Yep. Abuela.
I'm in my corner. I'm on my computer. I'm writing the story about what I'm doing so far, and it's in a hostel. And across the room, I hear, "Hey, what are you doing over there? We got Malibu." And so uh, I was like, "This sounds like too good to pass up." I needed to socialize more because I I needed to meet people because I had just really been so miserable and kind of reclusive. Uh, I closed my laptop up and I went over and I met the bad girls. Now these are uh, like it was about 6 or 7 housewives from Glasgow that uh, once a year they would get rid of the husbands and they would go off and they would have a hoot nanny, uh,
Yep.
an unsupervised hoot nanny. And so I got called over to the hoot nanny inside of uh, and they already were like pouring me drinks, and I just fell in love with them, like uh, the bad girls. And now that there's the Catherine, Jane, Margaret, Phyllis, Sandra. I don't know who's the one that invited me over, but they got me over, and I partied with them for several hours, and then I was a responsible person that was probably still tired from everything, and I went to bed. But the next morning, uh, one of the bad girls woke up in the flower bed outside. One of them had a one of them had a broken arm. It and so I've What's been great about the Bad Girls and this being my first hike that I had ever done, and the fact that I met them on my first hike that I've ever done, they're all friends of mine on Facebook.
Nice.
And whenever I post anything, they're 90% of the time, they're the first ones that will like and comment on my post.
We got
And
to have them on.
oh, ah,
We got to
the
have them
Bad
on.
Girls. Oh, yeah,
Let's
because
go. We're going to go Bad Girls episode.
you know what? Because I'm sure they could give us the full story of what happened that night after I went to bed. Oh yes. Oh yes, yes. I want to, I've heard snippets about like the flower bed and the broken arm, but I need a blow by blow telling of what happened.
Of what happened.
Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh. But yes,
That's awesome.
and someday I'm going to get back there and have a little reunion with the Bad Girls. Now I had offered to take them on the West Highland Way because I want to go back and do it again. There's the Devil's Staircase, which everyone's like, oh, it's horrifying. I didn't mind it so bad. Peter went and did the West Highland Way after the Camino, and he hurt
Yep.
his knee on the Devil's Staircase. The first day of the Camino was 100 times more horrible than the Devil's Staircase. That ride up to
Well, there's
Roncesvalles,
Orson and then
Roncesvalles.
Roncesvalles.
Yeah.
Roncesvalles.
Yeah, that 7-hour uphill hike to Roncesvalles was Devil's Staircase doesn't even compete with that.
Really?
But in general, West Highland Way, I thought when I was booking my flight to Scotland that I was going to be like Gene Kelly in Brigadoon. I would meet those dancing people in the Highlands, and it was going to be a musical, and I was going to fall in love with some person from some mythical village in the mountains. But anyway, not what I imagined with all the pain that I went through. And what was really nice when you get to Fort William is that you there's a sign there that says you've completed the West Highland Way, and there's statues of there's a statue of a man like massaging his feet because that you can sit next to and massage your foot like kind of in
Nice.
yeah. And when you get to Fort William, there's all kinds of things you could do. It's pretty uneventful when you're walking the way. Although there is a lot of education along the way, all along the trail, there's little signs of historical things that have happened in Scotland along the way in the area that you're walking through. And 9 chances out of 10, it's some kind of battle where the Scottish people have beat the shit out of each other and one clan has been fighting another clan. But that's mainly the history that you're going to be seeing. There's you can climb Ben Nevis, which is one of the top 3 mountains, and it's easy to climb. It's a high mountain. You can ride in Fort William, you could ride the Hogwarts Express on that bridge.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's an old steam train, and you can actually ride that. And then, yeah, but after that, I got on a plane and immediately went to, I flew to Pamplona and then took a bus to Santiago. And then within a few days, I met you. But
no, you took a bus to Saint Jean.
St. John's. Yeah.
Saint Jean. Yeah. And then
but
within a few days we met.
The good thing about that West Highland Way prior to being on the Camino is that I had gotten my hiking legs.
Yes.
If I had tried that first day hiking from St. Jean all the way up to Roncesvalles without having been in so much pain for that week and a half prior, I would have probably been walking next to Sveta. She was just telling her son, Pavle, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. And because she had imagined that the entire month was going to be like this 9-hour hike up this hill. And honestly, if that's what if that's the one it had been, I don't know if I
None
could
of
have
us.
done. No. Um, we've got 7 minutes. Do you quickly want to talk about what we want to do with trail mix and loose lips in the future? What are our goals?
You know what I want to do is I want to share our experiences, and I want to have the chance to listen to your stories, and then interview you about them, and share what is out there. There's so much out there, that I think people should experience and should explore. You're an inspiration to me for the fact that you've been an expat for almost over 20 years now. I've traveled the world, like I said at the beginning, pretty extensively. And so I want to just, I want to hear your story, and then I want to be able to ask you questions about it. Like, so, I've got questions I'd ask you about the West Highland Way, just as you were talking. I was thinking, okay, I'd like to ask him about this. So
Oh yeah.
to create a dialogue about some of those things, to inspire people to get out, to go find some of these places, because the world is as small as it is, it's a big place, and there's so much out there. I want to hear the chicken bus story. That's not for today, but I've mentioned that to you before. But my goals are to inspire people to travel, to inspire people to share their experiences, because I do believe that these have become too prevalent in our world, and they're stealing. Okay, it's fun to it's fun to sit there and scroll through reels and TikToks, but the face-to-face the face-to-face storytelling has become a lost art. And there's something special about being on this call. And I loved listening to your story about the West Highland Way. I did. I think it's great.
I didn't carry on too long. Was it boring? Like, should I be more concise?
No.
No, it was okay. Again,
No, it was
again,
fine. It was fine.
I was just blabbing.
I mean,
but I kind of feel like I have the liberty to just keep blabbing here. But in general, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so boring. Like in my head, I'm like,
no. I mean, and that's so. But that's part of what we're fighting through as well, Forrest. Is like, is some of those details that you shared about, like, the night in the rain and the frozen towel, and you have to get into the story long enough to appreciate those details, right? So it's like those are the gems you're gonna go like, oh yeah. Next time I'm out there and I get the frozen towels, and be like, all right, Forrest, I got you. I got, it's like, and understanding those things, and hearing, and honestly, hearing the names like Inverness, okay, hearing the Devil's Staircase, hearing those key places and points, that's important to spread the word on some of this, so I think that's part of the storytelling. So I just think there's a lost art of storytelling. I think it's been replaced by social media. I think it's been replaced by TikTok. It's been replaced by Reels, and they have their place in today's society. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy them as much as anybody, but the sitting down and listening to somebody tell a story,
that's nice.
It's a beautiful, it's an art form, and it's beautiful.
That's very cute. Like for me, I think I want to grow and expand from this like one unsponsored episode to like absolutely world domination. To own a monopoly of every imaginable media outlet, so much so that Disney, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Murdoch all tremble at our feet, begging us.
Exactly. Let's go for it, buddy. I'm in. I am
begging us not to crush their companies. To have this our very first episode running on a loop at the Smithsonian Museum of American History. But there's 10 short-term goals that I would like to have.
Okay.
100 subscribers wherever we're posting.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
10 podcast episodes edited and in the can. At least one famous person that likes the show, like someone saying, "Oh, I saw your show. It was great." Like one person, like, I know enough famous people. If we could get one person to comment, that would be amazing. One mention of the podcast in any type of media.
Okay.
To tell one story regarding the 6 populated continents, to create some merchandise that we could sell. We could have trail mix. We could have loose lips trail mix for sale. Imagine the marketing possibilities.
I can imagine.
All right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I would like to have at least one troll post a brutal comment for no reason at all. I would like to get a cease and desist letter from a company or celebrity. Maybe a host or a guest will fall asleep during the recording, and possibly get a review from someone who clearly didn't listen to the podcast at all.
Nice. Okay. Nice. All right. Let's send me those so I'm gonna put them right up here on my fucking bulletin board right here, and we're gonna fucking mark them off as they go down. So
yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So
Yes.
we got 1 minute left. That concludes the very first episode of Trail Mix and Loose Lips, and we can only go up from here.
Rico and Pato on the road again, with stories wild and laughter to sustain. From deserts vast to mountain high, every tale's a journey under the sky. Through dusty towns and city lights, we share the fun, the laughs, and the sights. Pato's jokes, Rico's tales so grand. Together they travel hand in hand. Oh, trail mix and loose lips side by side. Laughter and stories we won't hide. In every corner a joke to share. Rico and Pato always there. In the morning dew, at night under stars, each day brings new tales from far to near. From the beach to the campfire glow, adventure never ends. Oh no, if every step they find new friends, memories made on this great bend. In every story a lesson true, Rico and Pato always do. Oh, trail mix and loose lips side by side. Laughter and stories we won't hide. In every corner a joke to share. Rico and Pato always there. Oh, trail mix and loose lips side by side. Laughter and stories we won't hide. In every corner a joke to share. Rico and Pato always there.